Good evening and thank you for joining us. My name is Chrissy and I would like to welcome you to the Doylestown Bookshop's virtual event series. I am very happy to welcome PA Congresswoman Madeleine Dean and her son, Harry Cunnane, for a special story time featuring their new book, You Are Always Loved, A Story of Hope. This beautiful picture book reassures children that even when the grown-ups in their life are absent, they are loved and enough as they are. Following the reading and discussion, the authors will be taking questions from you, the viewers. If you would like to submit a question, please click on Ask a Question at the bottom of your screen and enter your question there. If you're watching from a phone or tablet, click the icon with the question mark to submit your questions. If you would like to purchase the book from the Doylestown Bookshop, click the button on your screen that says Buy the Book. We have curbside pickup available at both of our locations, or we can ship the book to you. I've had a few questions during past events from viewers who are accustomed to Zoom events, so to avoid any confusion, only our guests and myself will be able to participate through video and audio. You may, however, interact with us through the chat box on your screen and through the Q&A. Now, a little bit about our guests. Madeleine Dean is the Congresswoman for the 4th District of Pennsylvania in suburban Philadelphia, a member of the House Judiciary and House Financial Services Committees, and Vice Chair of the Bipartisan Women's Caucus. From 2012 to 2018, Madeleine served in the Pennsylvania House, and from 2001 to 2011, she taught writing at LaSalle University, and her writing has appeared in the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Daily News, and other regional publications. She and Harry have also written an adult memoir titled Under Our Roof. Harry has been an active member of the addiction recovery community since his recovery began more than 7 years ago. Harry participates in a 12-step program and volunteers at rehabs and jails around Philadelphia to spread a message of hope, and now works as a resource director for the same treatment center where he originally sought help for his own addiction. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Chrissy.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. I'm going to leave it to you. We look forward to your reading.
Well, thank you. And Harry and I are delighted to be with you tonight. We had the chance to stop in at the beautiful Doylestown Bookshop this weekend and sign some books. And so we do thank you for hosting this. And we hope we have an audience with children who might enjoy this beautiful picture book. So Harry, shall we give it a read?
Let's get started.
Okay, I'll start. And this is the book. I hope you all have seen it. It's called You Are Always Loved, and we have a beautiful illustrator, and I'll tell you about her in a second, Holly Clifton Brown. So I'll read the first half, and Harry will jump in on the second. The book begins, let's see if I can do this. Sometimes you look around, and everything is bright and feels like love. But if ever a storm blows through and you don't know how to feel, know this. When dark clouds cover the sun, you are the light. When the ground beneath you shakes and the winds swirl and push, you are brave. When you can't stop the lightning or calm the crashing thunder, you can look inside your heart where there's hope. Hope is a friend helping you soar above rough waters.
Hope is a friend carrying you up mountains too hard to climb. Hope is a friend who is always by your side. So if ever a storm blows through and something you cherish is swept away, you are not the winds and you are not the rain, and you are never alone. And once the clouds have passed and everything around you is bright again, know that you are always loved. Rain or shine, all the time.
Thank you, Chrissy, for giving us the chance to read this beautiful picture book. And I hope your audience will love the pictures of all of the bunnies and the bunnies' friends. And so with that, Chrissy, shall we toss it back to you, or shall Harry and I just tell you about why we wrote the book?
I would love to hear about why you wrote the book.
Well, thank you. We were actually asked to write the book. I don't think either of us pictured writing this book or the memoir that we wrote, but it has been a joy to do both. We wrote this book, or I will say, and in the back there's a little information about why we wrote the book personally to us and to our story. But one reason I wrote this book was to speak to my kids when they were little. I have 3 sons, all now grown, and they now have children. I have 3 grandchildren and 1 on the way. Harry has a baby coming in June. And so this book is to tell young people that if you're ever worried about something, you're ever afraid, if somebody in your family is struggling with some problem, that you are always loved. The problem is not you. Don't ever worry about that. You are always loved. And if you have any fears, tell someone you know. Look at the friends that surround this little bunny and lift the bunny up mountains and help the bunny soar across crazy rivers. There are people all around you that can show you that you are loved and you are the light. Harry, why did you want to write the book when we were asked to?
For, many different reasons. And I would say the most important for me was thinking about my kids, and all the other kids who are out there. So I have a 9-year-old daughter, Aubrey, a 1-year-old son, Sawyer, and I have a 3rd child on the way. But really with Aubrey, when Aubrey was born, I was going through a really, really hard time in my life, and I was really struggling. And no matter how much I loved her, in some ways I was incapable of being present enough or being the father that I wanted to be for her. And I needed to go and get help. I ended up, I went and I was able to receive help, and I had to step away for a little bit. And I always just wanted her to know, even though she was so young at that point in time, but no matter what was going on and the turmoil and the challenges that we were facing, that I always loved her. And that love was so strong and so important, even when I was away and even when, I was not well enough to show it in the way that I wanted to. And I think about so many kids who are out there and children who have fears, and worry about different things. And, maybe worry about a parent, worry about a sibling, worry about a grandparent, to know that it's okay to worry. And it's okay to talk about those fears and to expose it and to really lean on, support system of whoever that may be, whoever is there for you, and know that, any struggles that you see around you as a child, it's not your fault. That you have love around you and that there's hope, because I know sometimes it can be really hard. I know for me, when I was a young child, it was hard to understand some of the things that were happening around me. And I was often afraid to ask questions and to reach out and let others know that I was afraid. So we wanted to write the book to allow children and parents to have open and honest conversations about whatever struggles may be going on. And sometimes, in terms of the imagery of a feel like there's a storm, in the household, and that's okay, and hang on to your friends and hang on to who you have around you, and know that together you can get through it. And it, can be a bright and sunny day on the other side. So for me, with my kids and especially my daughter, Aubrey, just because, she was the one who was with me when I was really struggling and was there for me, as I continued to to grow and get better. I just wanted her to know, and my other children to know, that no matter what's going on around them, that they're always loved by me, by my mom, by my parents, my family, and so many others, whether that's teachers, friends, whoever it may be.
I'm interested in your collaboration. This is your second book that you've written together, and could you talk to us about your process and the difference from writing your memoir and shifting to writing a children's picture book?
Oh, sure. And it was interesting. Neither Harry nor I thought of writing the memoir. It was my eldest son, Harry's brother, Pat, who had written a book, who said, I think you guys have a story in you. The struggles between Harry and me trying to find out what was wrong, and him falling sadly into the disease of addiction, but then getting to recovery and seeking treatment and help for his sickness. So we wrote that memoir. We did an outline together, and then we went our separate ways. And we wrote it separately because I didn't want my memory to be changed by what he was remembering or writing. And I think you felt the same way, Harry. So in the memoir, we wrote separately and then began to dovetail the chapters together. And in the memoir, you'll see we actually have a different font for each of our voices, a serif kind of old-fashioned font for me, the older mother, and a nice, harsh, masculine, non-serif font for Harry. But it's a weaving of our stories as we were discovering what was going on, and then much more filled with hope is the second half of the memoir, where he seeks treatment and is in long-term recovery and just healthy and well and having a beautiful family. When we were writing that, our agent came to us and said the children's book division wants to explore the area of addiction, or more broadly, a struggle within a household, a struggle within a family. Would you be interested? And we seized on it right away. So Harry, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, for us, I mean, the children's book was so exciting. We had been involved and had started writing the memoir, I guess, for about a year or so when the idea came to do a children's book. And, I think from our different perspectives and in terms of how we collaborated and really came to what this book turned into, we had very different points of view. I was, in some ways, through parts of the memoir, the child who was struggling. My mom was the worried mother, but I also had, my own daughter, and, was thinking about her and kind of growing up, having a father who struggled and then who had, been on the road to recovery and was doing well. And, so much of that happened, right around when she was just one. So, I think her memory of it is maybe not there, but we know with kids, they're perceptive, they know what's going on and they can feel it even before they can understand it. And another part was, when you talk about something like addiction, kind of the stigma that goes along with it. I had struggled as someone in recovery in having those conversations with my daughter, who's now 9, of how do you talk about that, in a way that's safe for a child, without over explaining or giving too much information, but talk about what it looked like, and because it's something that is so critical to understanding who we are as a family, and who my kids are and who their father is. So the idea to write this children's book, I'm getting distracted, but we're just, I was so passionate about this because I wanted to give selfishly a platform for me to talk to my own daughter and my younger son about what our family had been through. And allow them to safely ask questions and feel heard and understood, and do it in a way that doesn't use some of the harsh language, but uses images and pictures and words that are more common and more understanding and more safe, more comfortable and safe. So really that's what kind of drove in terms of my side of what I wanted this book to be. I see one of the comments, just saying that you are never alone. And that's something that I wanted so desperately for my daughter to understand, that even, in the times when I had to step away, that she was never alone. She was always in my heart, and she was with those that surrounded her with love at the time. And I think for all, that's such an important thing to understand. And you just can't say it often enough, because I know for me, there were times, and I grew up in a busy, bustling household with a family that, surrounded me. And we had not just my immediate family, but we had cousins and uncles and others living with us. So, physically there was no being alone.
No alone in a house.
but it could feel that way. It could feel lonely from time to time. And I just think, that's something we should talk about, because those feelings are normal and natural for a kid as they're growing up. And I think the more we talk about it, the less intimidating it is. And the more we realize just the common bonds that we share as human beings in some of those struggles.
Okay, and we do have a question. Thank you, Donald, for your question for Harry. How are you explaining the current COVID crisis to your young children that may not fully understand the isolation and everyone wearing a mask?
So it's been a challenge. So my daughter is in third grade. So last year in March, abruptly, she just was no longer going to school in person, and her whole world, along with all of ours, was kind of flipped upside down. And what I've tried to do, and she's been, I think, pretty understanding of this, is talk about it as, looking at how can we try to look out and help others, in terms of wearing the mask. She's 9. She does not want to wear a mask all the time. But when we kind of take a step back and look at, sadly, my grandmother passed away from COVID. So my daughter's great grandmother. And, when you have things like that are happening, there's opportunities to talk about. Some of us, especially, those who are older or may have health conditions, need us, the younger group, the 9-year-olds, the, parents my age, to really look out for others, whether we know them or not. So I think, my daughter also has her mom is a nurse, so she gets more of kind of the medical side on that end. So she's known about germs and viruses since probably before she should have. But it's really a matter of, it's a day-to-day thing, because some days, Aubrey can feel like she's very comfortable in what's going on and kind of get used to what is her new routine and new normal. And there's other days where she just misses her friends. So I don't think there's one boilerplate answer that, doesn't work for my daughter. So it's just I've tried to watch her and gauge kind of where she is as it ebbs and flows between understanding and acceptance of where we are, to times where she wants to be a kid. She wants to go play and, hang out with her friends, have a sleepover, do those things that were much more normal a year ago. And I allow her to be frustrated, because, I think that's a really important part of it is, this is hard on all of us. And sometimes as a parent, it can be hard to have that patience and kind of take a step back and see that. But that's something that I think that if I had, now that I've talked in a full circle, if I had sort of any advice, it's, allow them to go through that and be frustrated at times, and accepting at other times, and just try to hear them out, because I've felt it. I know my wife has felt it. I know we've all felt different times where it's easier than others.
And I think if I could tie it to the book uses the metaphor of a storm. It's like we've been in a really long storm. I remember when the kids first came home from school, it felt like a long snow day or a long snowstorm. And, I guess we'll get back in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And so And talking to Aubrey, Sawyer seems to take it in strides. 14 months, and he's cool. He's fine. He doesn't know any differently. But just that notion of, even though we're isolated, even though it seems like the entire globe is going through this long-term storm that is costly, including a great-grandmother, she's not the problem. She's not the source of conflict or difficulty or storm or virus, that she is light, that she is loved, and that we will one day go back to being as connected as we need to be as human beings.
And I do have a question about Holly Clifton Brown, the book's illustrator. Were you connected with her through your publisher after you had written the book? Yeah?
I want to talk about that because I really want to give credit where credit is due. When we were asked to consider to write the book, we then had the chance to sort of interview, if you will, illustrators. And so Penguin Random House Children's Division offered us samples of several beautiful illustrators. And we pretty quickly, Harry, they were all talented, don't get me wrong, but we pretty quickly honed in on Holly. And she was delighted to be a part of this project. And that's something that we found, that when you start talking about this project, so whether it was the illustrator or this book is actually set to an audiobook, and it has its own composed song by the singer-songwriter Paul Williams. I told him we were doing this project and that there would be music to the audiobook, and he wrote original lyrics and performed the song that now appears in the, or not appears, but you can hear in the audiobook, to a person people wanted to be involved in the project. So Harry, I remember Holly was. We also have a co-author with us. We read some of her children's books because we came up with the language and the words and the message that we wanted, but we know we're not talented children's writers. That's an art and a craft all of its own. So Chelsea Lynn Wallace, we interviewed a number of children's authors, and so she worked with us in the message that we had in mind. Again, everybody who ever heard of this project jumped onto it with enthusiasm for the children.
Wow, that's amazing. It really is a gorgeous book. The illustrations are beautiful.
Aren't they?
Oh my gosh. And I do want to remind everyone, Madeleine and Harry were nice enough to come by the bookshop this past weekend and sign copies of the book. So if you would like a signed copy, you can click the button on your screen that says buy the book or the link that I put in the chat box. If no one has any other questions, I would like to thank you. Oh, here's another question. You know what? We might pass on this one because we're just going to keep this maybe non-political and to the book, if that's all right with everybody. Unless
if you share that with me, I'd be happy to online or speak to the person who asked the important question. Happy to do that. So if you could share their contact.
All right. I will do that. It's no problem at all. Thank you for your question. Thank you very much. I will do that when we're finished here. Thank you for joining us tonight. This was a real joy. I'm so happy we got to hear about your book and the process and your story. And it was very nice to meet you both virtually. I hope when we can, we can meet each other in person and maybe do something at the store sometime.
We'd be delighted. We'll come back. Thank
you
to you and to the Doylestown Bookstore.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you both. Thank you everyone for watching and have a wonderful night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.